I made a joke before that I only reanimate and come back to life when an actual major update is made to the game. Anyway, 6 months later, here we are to talk about the new hero Medjay. Let's not waste any time and jump right into it. Just in case someone doesn't know by now, a Medjay in this context of ancient Egypt was essentially an elite force that worked on behalf of the pharaoh, whether that be as a bodyguard, a spy, or whatever the task the pharaoh deemed important enough. Let's start with the most important thing for me, the weapon. The Medjay uses a modified, to say the least, palm axe or fan axe, whatever you'd like to call them. Let me preface what I am about to say by saying that the weapon design is very much unique and plays well with the character's split stance moves. On a gameplay design level, I think that this is very well done. Now with that out of the way, having two axe heads on each side of an axe is silly. You're essentially asking to injure yourself. For example, if you were to cast out your weapon to do a slash or a chop, when the top of the axe head goes down, the bottom would rise and potentially strike your forearm. There's a reason why the historical palm axe did not have a second axe on the bottom, and also why other historical axes like the Dane axe or the pole axe did not have a second axe head. If anything, it's substituted for a spike or some sort of offensive device that would not seriously injure the user like a blade would. That being said, none of this really matters because it's a video game. Another video game-ism is the fact that this axe magically separates into two. For a variety of reasons, this would not work with most ancient metallurgy, but considering that this is supposedly a magical warrior from a lost civilization coming back to fulfill a magical prophecy about some sort of beetle, or something, I don't know, I didn't really read the book for this class project, I'll just accept this for what this is. Personally, if I had to design the magical double-ended axe, I would have at the very least done a smaller axe head on the bottom. Time and time again, when it comes to dual-wielding weapons in history, we have seen that there be a primary offensive weapon and a secondary defensive weapon, from the European rapier and dagger to the Japanese daisho of katana and wakizashi. In this case, had the secondary axe been smaller, it'd be faster and more capable of being used for parrying. Obviously, it could still be used for striking, but it would have a much clearer purpose, both as a staff, like how Lawbringer uses a spike on the end of his poleaxe, and as dual axes. But I don't work for Ubisoft though, so it is what it is. Now, I should probably talk about the armor for Season 2, and by talking about it, I mean there really isn't anything for me to talk about. There are some more armor variations. You guys should kinda know the deal by now. Anything that could be said has already been said in a previous video. I like to put information that you as the viewer might not know yet, so that you can take it upon yourself to seek more knowledge and overall be informed. There are a few notable things here and there, like Warden's helmet as a great helm with brass fittings is a really good variant of a great helm. It's reminiscent of a mid-14th century type of helm, like this helmet of Hans Ritter of Kornberg at the Dramatic National Museum in Nuremberg. So I implore you to take the information that I've given you from past armor reviews and come up with your own conclusions on these new variations, as what you find to be interesting and what you think is somewhat historical. Sharing knowledge and discussion is what this channel was based on, so feel free to comment what you found if you'd like. Anyways, moving back to the Medjay and talking about his armor. Let me be completely upfront and clear right now. Egyptian history is not my forte at all. I know some things, but most of what I am sharing with you is what I have researched for this video. I am bound to leave some things out, so please let me know if there's anything of value that I might have missed. To start with the first armor type, it's technically not armor, but that's what we'll call it. As you can see on pretty much all of his armors, they will be adorned with a ubiquitous Egyptian collar. Now, in this game, that collar is stiff and almost seems like a form of chest armor. In reality, that's actually a necklace. It's called an usek, and it's adorned on everything from deities to men and women. I actually like its adaptation into this game, as it's very unique for a civilization that was known for not wearing armor. This is a good example of ahistorical armor that isn't overtly unrealistic and fantasy, at least in my opinion. On the rest of the body you can see bracers and shin guards, which again is not really historical to Egyptians, but in this context is a good use for filling up empty space for player customization. In the later armor sets, it gets pretty interesting. As you can see on this set, it's essentially a mummified Medjay. I mean, it's an Egyptian hero, so we all knew a mummy set was coming. This is actually really cool in my opinion because whoever designed this put a lot of thought into it, or at least did some good research. For starters, the mummified wraps cover every single bit of the body, from the chest to the head, and it even goes around the fingertips. That is some good attention to detail, and even better attention to detail is the mask that the Medjay has on. It's clearly a burial mask given to those who are, well, about to be buried. Although not a direct reference as other burial masks can have it, I'd like to think that the braided beard that comes off the mask is in direct reference to Tutankhamun, or King Tut, the most prolific Egyptian burial of a pharaoh, if not ever. But the mask itself isn't the most interesting part. It's the green hue that is on all the metal pieces. Ancient Egyptian society, although incredibly successful for its time, did not have the metallurgy capabilities to make steel. In exchange, they used bronze for most of the metals they needed, including weaponry, and it sufficed well enough. One interesting thing about bronze, though, is unlike steel, how it rusts when it oxidizes, bronze tends to turn into a greenish blue color, and that is known as copper oxide. It's something that is inevitable to bronze items when left unattended, and what that is insinuating with this set is that this mummy has been sitting somewhere in a probably damp and dark place for a very long time. Overall, I think this one is pretty neat, and it's one of my favorites. Next sets we are getting into have anthropomorphized deities. Although I guess the deities are already anthropomorphic to begin with, I don't really know, but that's not the point. The point is that we're going to see different Egyptian gods themed throughout these sets, all of which are probably relating to the Medjay in some way. First set is Anubis. If the spiky ears and dog face didn't give it away, I don't know what would. Anubis was the jackal-headed deity who presided over the embalming process and accompanied dead kings into the afterworld. He is the god of death, mummification, embalming, the afterlife, cemeteries, tombs, and the underworld. After just talking about mummification and the importance of the Medjays to the pharaoh, if I need to explain why the Egyptian god was picked, then I don't know. I can't help you. Another side note to this armor is the fact that it has a scale armor cummerbund, armored bath towel. I don't really know what that is, but I support the idea of there being scale armor. Although I said that armor wasn't something used in Egyptian warfare, if there were to be armor that would be used, I would argue that scale armor would be somewhat period correct, as it could be theorized as something introduced by the Romans when they had contact with each other. Or it could be something that they came up with on their own. Scale armor isn't the most complex form of armor. The next set is a crocodile head, and that is in reference to Sobek. Sobek was associated with pharaonic power, fertility, and military prowess. In this context, we can assume that donning the visage of Sobek is meant as a form of protection while in combat, or to intimidate their opponent with the idea that they are fighting a champion of Sobek themselves, and with all that, the so-called military prowess that comes with it. As for the armor on this one, unlike the previous type of scale armor, this one is lamellar armor. Few things with this. Lamellar is a lot harder to make than scale armor, and for that reason I find it much harder to suspend my disbelief. Secondly, they didn't put the scale armor on the crocodile head. Really? That was like an obvious choice but somehow missed. This last set is a toss-up because it has a bird head and I can't tell if it's supposed to be Ra or Horus. Apparently the Egyptians didn't know either, as their characteristics are so similar that at times they just fused together to create Ra Horakti, Ra who is Horus of the two horizons. Regardless, as they both portray themselves as falcons, they both share the same trait of watchful eye or watchful protector as they fly above the sky and look down on their subjects. I would assume that wearing this visage of the watchful protector would essentially place the Medjay as someone as some sort of superhero status, which realistically is what they were trying to go for, I think, with them being the good guys and all, according to what they said in their trailer. All in all, I think this character is actually pretty interesting and brings a lot more to the table in the universe than the pirate hero did, which is unfortunate because I'd love to have a pirate hero genuine to the stereotype that we all know and love, but it is what it is. I know that there is a moveset that they released, but I don't think there is much worth talking about. Even if there is, I would much rather look at the moveset in-game when I have access to my free camera versus trying to analyze it through a video ripped from a stream. Anyways, that's going to be it for this video. Like, subscribe, dislike, comment, do what you like. I'm going back into my crypt. See you in 6 months when something else new happens again.